Good afternoon. On February 4th, 2021, Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment. The charges filed today in federal court allege that she was in fact murdered by Matthew Farwell 3 days earlier. At the time of her death, Sandra Birchmore was a 23-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her, and she was pregnant with her first child. We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Matthew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department. And when it became clear to Mr. Farwell that he could no longer control Sandra Birchmore, he allegedly silenced her permanently. This morning, Matthew Farwell was arrested on a federal grand jury indictment, charging him with one count of killing a witness or victim. Specifically, Mr. Farwell is charged with violating Title 18 United States Code 1512 for killing Sandra Birchmore with the intent of preventing her from communicating information about his possible commission of federal crimes. How did this all unfold? What happened here? Well, back in 2010, a 12-year-old Sandra Birchmore applied to join the Stoughton Police Department's Explorers program, which introduces teens to policing. Officer Matthew Farwell was an instructor in that program. And as alleged in court documents, he befriended Sandra Birchmore, contacted her online, went to the library with her, became friends on Facebook, essentially groomed her. And then he committed statutory rape by having sex with her when he was a 27-year-old police officer and she was just 15 years old. Mr. Farwell continued to have a sexual relationship with Sandra Birchmore until her death 8 years later, allegedly meeting her for sex regularly when he was on duty and being paid by the Stoughton Police Department. Now, in the weeks leading up to Sandra Birchmore's death in February 2021, she found out that she was expecting a baby. And she told Mr. Farwell that he was the father. According to court documents, Ms. Birchmore was very excited about becoming a mother, buying baby clothes and other items, taking precautions to ensure the health of her new child. Sandra Birchmore had good friends, she had a good job, she had dreams of becoming a nurse, and she had a child on the way. But Mr. Farwell did not share in that excitement. It's alleged that Mr. Farwell reacted quite negatively to the news that Sandra Birchmore was pregnant with his child. And he acted angrily, it is alleged, when Sandra Birchmore started making requests of Mr. Farwell around doctor's appointments and ultrasounds and what information would be on the birth certificate. Mr. Farwell was losing control in late 2020, early 2021. And the information that Sandra Birchmore possessed about his illegal conduct was in danger of slipping out. In fact, word started to get out about their relationship. Less than 2 weeks before she was found dead, someone called the Stoughton Police Department and disclosed that Matthew Farwell had had a relationship with Sandra Birchmore. And when Mr. Farwell learned about that call, he became visibly angry. Mr. Farwell, it is alleged in these court papers, started to lose his patience, lose his temper, and the 6'4" Mr. Farwell started to be physically violent with 4'10" Sandra Birchmore. And Sandra Birchmore told her friends that Mr. Farwell had pushed her and shoved her and put her in a chokehold. She was scared. And during that same time, Mr. Farwell was allegedly planning Sandra Birchmore's murder. For the first time, he requested a key to her apartment. And she told friends that he was oddly inspecting the apartment and looking at the closet, including the closet that she was found dead in front of. And then it all came to a head on February 1st, 2021. Mr. Farwell went over to her apartment that evening, and he strangled Sandra Birchmore to death. That's the allegation in this case. And he used his knowledge and experience as a law enforcement officer to stage her death to look like a suicide. He allegedly attempted to cover his tracks to literally try and get away with murder. And he almost did, until today. Back in 2021, with the information that was available, Sandra Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide, or deemed a suicide. But over the last year or so, the FBI and our office We've been working exhaustively with our state partners. We've uncovered critical new information, examined the existing information, all of which led to this federal grand jury indictment. If convicted on this charge, Mr. Farwell faces a minimum of life imprisonment. Giving voice to the voiceless, ensuring that no one is above the law, protecting the vulnerable people of Massachusetts, that's the highest calling of people in law enforcement. And this case represents those principles. And every day across Massachusetts, thousands of police officers, federal, state, local law enforcement, put their lives on the line to protect the people of Massachusetts. Mr. Farwell violated those principles, and now he faces very grave consequences. It is disheartening to have to charge law enforcement officers, especially with crimes as serious. But it's our job at the Department of Justice to investigate potential crimes without fear and without favor. We do in this office what we've been doing for decades with our federal partners like the FBI. We follow the facts, regardless of where they lead. We apply the law and the principles of federal prosecution, full stop. We are not influenced by social media chatter. We are not influenced by politics. We're influenced by the facts and the law. Our mission is to do our level best to do justice in every case. And our mission today is to do justice for Sandra Birchmore. Lastly, I want to note that we are sharing the information and the evidence that we developed in this case with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, with the Massachusetts State Police, and with the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, so they can assess whether state charges may be warranted in this situation. And I want to thank those three agencies. I also want to thank the Stoughton Police Department for their assistance in our investigation. Lastly, I want to commend the women and the men of the FBI Boston and Lakeville for their incredible work on this case. This was a dogged investigation. And as you look at the court papers, you'll see exactly how much work has gone into this matter. A huge credit to them. And I particularly want to thank the members of my office, the office I'm proud to lead, the victim witness advocates, paralegals, the chief of our human trafficking and civil rights unit, Liz Riley, assistant United States attorneys, Tori Cummings and Brian Fogarty. This case doesn't happen without their passion for justice. They deserve the credit, not me. Now I want to turn it over to Steve Kelleher, the assistant special agent in charge of FBI Boston.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Kelleher, assistant special agent in charge of FBI Boston. At approximately 10:45 a.m. this morning, the FBI arrested former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell for allegedly taking the life of Sandra Birchmore in order to ensure her silence. The FBI SWAT team took him into custody at a shopping plaza in Revere without incident. Immediately following his arrest, we shared this significant development with Sandra's family. We know it does not ease their pain, but hopefully it answers some of their questions. Simply put, this case is about seeking justice for Sandra, who we believe was killed by Matthew Farwell after he allegedly groomed and sexually abused her when she was just 15 years old, violating her body and her civil rights. It's also about keeping Mr. Farwell from getting away with murder and from harming anyone else. We in law enforcement are entrusted with immense authority because our decisions can have life-changing consequences, both good and bad. To temper that power, we must adhere to the highest of ethical standards. What we believe Officer Matthew Farwell did, as outlined in today's indictment, is depraved and a gross betrayal of his sworn oath and the public's trust. Let me be clear. Matthew Farwell's gun and badge did not grant him authority to violate the Constitution, and it certainly didn't entitle him to sexually exploit, abuse, and rape a child before killing her and her unborn baby in an attempt to cover up his alleged crimes. What's also troubling is we believe Matthew Farwell staged Sandra's body and her apartment to make it look like she had died by suicide. In the days that followed, this sworn police officer repeatedly lied to Massachusetts State Police investigators about the nature of their relationship. It's a stark contrast to the sheer excitement and pure joy that Sandra felt when she told Farwell that she was expecting his child, texting him a photo of a poster she had made celebrating the pregnancy. Our investigation also uncovered additional evidence that is inconsistent with someone choosing to die by suicide. In the hours leading up to Sandra's death, she reached out to a photographer to inquire about booking a newborn photo shoot. She also reached out to a friend about obtaining baby clothes. And at the time that she was in the middle of doing laundry when she died, with a load in the washing machine and another one in the dryer. There's no question this was a complex investigation, and our work is not done. Our agents, analysts, and financial investigators reviewed tens of thousands of text messages, emails, and financial records, conducted dozens of interviews with family, friends, and experts, and analyzed the crime scene. We urge anyone with information about the circumstances surrounding Sandra's death to contact the FBI. Committing murder to eliminate victims and witnesses is heinous, and it shakes the very core of our justice system, which depends on people truthfully testifying to what they know. Today's arrest shows that anyone who tries to interfere and retaliate against victims and witnesses in an attempt to subvert the rule of law will have to answer for it. After all, the public's trust is critical for our justice system to function properly. That's why the FBI will do everything in its power to bring justice anyone who tries to undermine that trust. Our hearts go out to Sandra, to the Birchmore family, and all who knew and loved Sandra. On behalf of the FBI, I want to thank them for their cooperation, patience, perseverance, and fortitude. I also want to thank our agents and analysts for their hard work and dedication, Acting U.S. Attorney Josh Levy and his team for their partnership, and both Chief McNamara of the Stoughton Police Department and Colonel Mon with the Massachusetts State Police for their assistance in helping us move this investigation forward. Thank you.
Next, Steve.
Take some questions.
Josh, why did it take so long to go from suicide, finding suicide, to now murder?
Well, I think when you have a chance to look through the court papers, you'll see how exhaustive this investigation is. Obviously, this is an incredibly serious charge. There was a lot of forensics and other evidence that had to be marshaled, expert witnesses, et cetera. So we move as fast as we can, and we also have a duty to get it right.
Was there a rush to find a suicide because this involved a police officer?
Yeah, our office wasn't involved in the initial determination of a suicide, so I can't speak to that.
You mentioned your office got involved about a year ago. What prompted that?
Yeah, we get leads on cases all the time from all different sources. I'm not going to comment on how we get information on
And
how
then,
we got into this one.
as you said initially, this was considered a suicide, but it seems like there's a plethora of evidence to suggest otherwise. Surveillance, text messages. How was that all missed for the first 2 years?
Yeah, I'm only in a position to comment on what we've done on this investigation. Those questions are not something I'm able to answer to. We like I said in my comments, we started pulling this string and followed the evidence and got new evidence to put together the case we put together today.
So what evidence tipped you off?
I'm sorry, sir?
What evidence led you to Peter?
It's you're never able to pick one piece of evidence that is the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's really an accumulation. We have to go in front of a jury, 12 citizens, and convince them beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Farwell is guilty. That's on us. He's presumed innocent today, and he will remain innocent until we meet that burden. But it's all the evidence in combination makes that case.
Did the state medical examiner's office plan to change the cause of death on her birth death certificate, and did you determine who the father of her unborn baby was?
Well, I'll take those in reverse order. I'm not going to comment on the second piece. What we have alleged in the court papers is that Ms. Birchmore told Mr. Farwell several times that he was the father. And your question about the state medical examiner, obviously, they don't report to me, and that's a question better directed to the state medical examiner.
Matthew is mentioned here, but we've heard reports over the years of several other officers. Are you guys conducting any other ongoing investigations related to soccer?
So I think Assistant Special Agent Charge Kelleher alluded to the fact this is an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to comment on what the other pieces are that we're looking into, but it's an active investigation. Shelley.
This is a death penalty eligible case. Is that on the table, or is that already off the table?
Shelley, you're absolutely correct. The maximum penalty under this statute as charged is a sentence of death. And whether to seek the death penalty in a federal case is decided at the highest levels of the Department of Justice. That decision has not been made on whether the death penalty was sought in this case, and that process will continue, but I can't comment on it beyond that.
Would you favor that? Would you push for that?
Not going to comment on it. It's a process that involves a lot of people at the Department of Justice, and I'm not going to share my view on this.
Did other officers in Stoughton or Stoughton government know about the grooming, the underage sexual contact that Matthew Farwell was having with Sandra when it was going on in those early 2010, 11, 12, 15?
I'm not going to comment on information that's not in the public record. As you heard, this is an ongoing matter, so we're going to continue to look into this matter. And if there's other individuals that we develop evidence they've violated the federal law, we'll proceed.
Josh, can you touch on, murder, state state usually is the one that handles murder charges. Obviously, you guys have jurisdiction on many cases, but what made this one get to federal authorities? And do you think that the state officials watched this investigation?
You know, there's a lot of overlap in the law between the federal government has jurisdiction over and what the state government has jurisdiction over. When someone comes to our office with credible information that a police officer may have been involved in a murder and underlying legal violations as set forth in the indictment, we're going to investigate that case every time. They come in different shapes and sizes, but that is our duty to the public, is to pursue credible leads like that and investigate them fully.
To follow up on her question, we saw Lieutenant Tully outside earlier. This is Norfolk DA's case first. You mentioned that they've been state partners throughout this. Does your office look into what may have went wrong in their investigation?
This case about what went wrong for Sandra Birchmore and how she was treated by Matthew Farwell and how he violated her rights and ultimately killed her. That's what this case is about. It's not about what happens at other state agencies. This is about justice for Sandra Birchmore.
This is the second major death investigation where your office has come to a different conclusion than Norfolk County DA. I'm sure you can't comment on that, but is that normal for federal prosecutors and state prosecutors to reach different conclusions on investigations?
So I'm here to talk about one case. We got about 1,000 cases in the office. I'm not going to comment on any other case in the office. I would just caution you to not extrapolate too much from one case out of all the things that are happening in our office.
This district has brought a charge of killing of a witness. I can't think of any others. I'm wondering if there are others.
Yeah. I don't know the answer. That's a question. That's an answer we could get for you, but I don't know the answer to it, Shelley. We bring charges of obstruction of justice frequently, as you know, but I'm not pulling one off the top of my head that matches this. Sorry. That's okay. Yeah, I'm not in a position to comment on things that are in the public record. That I wouldn't take that as yes or no, but I'm limited up here under local rules to talk about what's in the public record.
Can you talk about the arrest? What happened with the arrest this morning?
I'm going to ask ASAC Kelleher to speak to that.
So this morning we had a SWAT team that was in a location where Mr. Farwell was. He was taken into custody. He was driving a truck, gravel hauler, and he was safely taken into custody by the SWAT team, which is, what we strive to achieve every time we do an operation like this. No, he was in Revere.
Not in a neighborhood in Revere, was he on the highway?
No, it was in a shopping plaza in Revere.
Shopping plaza. Did he say anything?
We have not tried to interview him.
That dump truck he's driving, is that his new employment?
Again, I wouldn't comment on that here at this time, but he was driving the dump truck when he was arrested.
Before your agency got involved, there were other agencies investigating this. Can we expect to see any fallout from those lead investigators from other agencies who were responsible for finding justice in this case?
I think the juncture we're at right now is that we are working with state agencies. We've developed, as I said, new information that we're going to share with our state partners. They're going to make decisions about what charges are appropriate under state law, if any.
Can you tell us who the lead investigator was on this case before your agency got involved?
I can tell you the lead investigator was for our matter, which was the FBI. I don't know. I honestly don't have information on who the lead was in a state investigation. I don't get that type of information.
You've said that you're not, you're looking just into the fact of Sandra Birchmore's death. That's the focus of this case, not what law enforcement agencies prior to you did. Is that within your jurisdiction to investigate what those state agencies did?
I think what I said was I'm here to talk about Sandra Birchmore, and I'm not here to talk about other things that are happening in the United States Attorney's Office. It's 125 federal prosecutors doing a lot of different things. In this case, this press conference is about one young woman who we allege was killed by a Stoughton police officer, Matthew Farwell.
How your investigation might be complicated by the fact that you're going now into federal court where there is this, and you found that it was suicide, the Norfolk County DA's office opted not to pursue it. How does that affect your efforts now to prosecute?
Yep, good question. Look. In evaluating whether to bring charges, we obviously look at all the evidence that's both incriminating and exculpatory. All that gets turned over to defense lawyers. Mr. Farwell will be well represented in this case. and those facts will be put out in front of a jury. We are confident that when all the evidence is presented to a jury, if it gets that far, that those issues will not prevent us from securing a conviction.
Have you done your own, have your own person do an autopsy?
We,
That's come to a different conclusion? I know there's another one out there that's already been reported on. but-
that's correct. There's an expert witness. I don't want to get into exactly what that person did or didn't because I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it's in the court documents. Who has a tremendous amount of experience in this field and has reached a different conclusion.
Just a couple more questions. And just to be clear, you're not going to comment on the other two officers who had sexual relations with his before.
That's correct.
How unusual is it for a police officer to be charged with a capital offense involving sex with a minor?
It's unusual in my experience. I don't have a full handle on how often this has been done nationwide, but it's an unusual situation. And that's partly why it's so incredibly disturbing.
Anyone else?
Do you have any words of caution to departments that have police explorer programs based on what you learned from your investigation about how this was able to unfold?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my swim lane. I'm not an expert on police explorer programs, and so I really don't have any intelligent answer to that question.
Thank you.
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. Everything just feels like a test that I fail, so depressed when I can't seem to get out. But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that I'm inspired by all this shit. Tell me that I can and I won't. That's what guides me the most. Fuck your lies, I'll do what I want. I'm inspired by thirst, I'm inspired by worth. I desire your worst, so you can just hide while I work. I ain't tired, you first. I'll write a second, third verse about the lies you go disperse. You never did shit, I know it hurts.